So if you don't know, there's been a bit of a squabble going on around Twitter between two of our biggest news sources within the community, namely Cartoonbase and ToonHive. I'll be going over the many tweets and opinions surrounding this, but also take the opportunity to have this conversation about journalism and news when it comes to the cartoon community, so let's begin. Now, this whole thing started on the 12th of October when Cartoonbase posted this tweet. In journalism, originality is part of credibility. We've noticed that our recent posts including our responses on this issue have been mirrored. For those curious, time doesn't lie in checking post time. This isn't an argument, it's a lesson. We should respect each other's work. In the attached image, they give two separate examples of what appears to be ToonHive copying tweets from Cartoonbase. Following this tweet up an hour later, they say this: journalism's about more than just copy-paste. It's about impact, engagement, accuracy, and originality, and most importantly, sending a message. Here's a comparison for transparency and inspiration. We should all strive for the highest standard. The levels of pettiness go even further, as with this tweet, they attach an image comparing the accomplishments of the two accounts. Cartoonbase saying they have more exclusive posts, no idea what that means, more Q&As, and more posts supporting animation. First things first, I would like to make it clear as day that while I do not know either of the accounts personally, I do respect and appreciate both of their contributions towards the community. The amount of updates on shows leaving, announcements, and just general news that I've received from both of them is something I'm grateful for, and both of these accounts add value to the community. So my question to those, in my position as someone who consumes their content: who cares? At the end of the day, there's only so much news to be covered in Western animation on a daily basis, and when most of that news has been condensed into two-sentence tweets, it doesn't necessarily leave much room for you to be original and authentic. Apart from the other content that Cartoonbase has that isn't just news updates, I can't find many instances of them tweeting the same thing as them. Matter of fact, I'll use an example to bring this a little bit closer to home. So I was one of the people who made a video on the Ask Air situation when it was going on, and a large number of creators, some of whom I know personally, did the same thing too. Does that mean that all of our videos lacked authenticity because we all collectively thought the same thing and decided to make videos on it? No. So what's the big deal? Especially in the format of a tweet where you only have so many characters to work with and limited amounts of information to share. Also, the comparison thing in this tweet is so foul, and again, while I don't know them personally, this speaks to a level of egotism that I find unattractive. Now, ToonHive would eventually respond, first in a now deleted tweet, and secondly with this post. FYI, I do hope some of you come to the realization that the accounts you are following aren't journalists and shouldn't be taken seriously with their bias. With that being said, thank you for all the new followers we have gained. We appreciate your enduring support. Then following up with a clip of Bubble Bass trying to beat up SpongeBob while he's just enjoying his time, implying that Cartoonbase is just trying to start beef while they were just doing their own thing. Again, don't know you personally, but this also just seems unnecessary. I don't know if this is the first time they've had a spat like this online, but clearly there's something else going on here that's deeper than two copy-pasted tweets. I just find it disappointing that two of our largest sources of news are involved in something honestly childish, especially considering that when compared to other larger communities, i.e. gaming, film, etc., we don't have as many resources for news about Western animation. We are one of the smallest sects on the internet, and instead of possibly combining resources to even better things for the community news-wise, we're arguing over who copied whose tweet. I long for the day that we get more videos, more Q&As from creators, and hell, even sneak peeks and clips from upcoming shows, similar to how often that happens in the gaming scene. But that's never going to happen if people looking in see this kind of behavior. The people weren't complaining about which account was more original and authentic. We were just happy that we had news sources in the first place. Some people follow Hive, some people Cartoonbase, some both. And that's completely fine because you're both providing something valuable and everyone leaves happy at the end of the day. But I'm not the only one who thinks this. Look into the replies of any of these tweets and you'll see that people genuinely don't understand any of this beef. When your own core audiences would just come to see your little tweets and dip or turning on you, that's when you know you fucked up. You'll never see Vale doing some shit like this. For how much flack that man gets for his videos being short recaps of tweets and quote-unquote not having any substance, that guy has been providing news for years, relatively drama-free, and is doing well for himself. His core fans clearly find value in his short, informative videos, and if we're being honest, is one of our main sources for this type of news. That's pretty much all I have to say. But I did invite the homie Jay to give his insight on the whole situation, so I'm gonna pass it over to him.
I want to start off by saying that I, Alpha J, are mutuals with both Cartoonbase and ToonHive, and I've been on friendly terms with both of them. In fact, I respect both of them for the tweets that they provided to my feed. Now, with that said, I want to broaden this conversation about journalism, who's original and who's not, who's mature and who's childish, because there's a larger point to be made here. And I'm sure it's one that people will understand even if they don't want to hear it. I'd like to imagine everyone in the animation community space enjoys animation and wouldn't be doing this for money or attention, because quite frankly, there's a lot of other niches you could get richer and more famous with if that was your motive. But with that said, both of these accounts have built a massive following through consistency and tending to their respective fan bases by giving them what they want. However, something I've observed when someone builds a following is that sometimes you can forget or embellish exactly why people follow you. You end up believing you're doing something bigger than what you're actually doing. It's something that happens to a lot of content creators, which is why we so often hear about certain creators getting into dumb situations because they believe they're hyped so much. It's not about diminishing the consistency of building a brand, but about balancing the real world impact you have with the long-term vision of your life. Don't get me wrong, when I read certain comments or hear how long people have watched me, I feel grateful, and it does make me understand some of the impact that I've had, but at the same time, I remember that what I'm doing is just one aspect of my life, and it's one aspect of your life as well. As much as I love Gumball and Clarence and Kif, all of the animation news I get from these two amazing accounts, as much as animation is a big part of my life, it's not my whole life, nor would I want it to be. I think there's a lot of great things out there for people to do and to see, people to meet as well. And I think a lot of you, including myself, have a lot of short-term and long-term problems that deserve more attention than who's original or how many minutes it took for the other account to post the same thing. You should have pride in your work, even if that work is day in, day out, posting news about animation. But almost every content creator who I've met who's made content creation their whole life has struggled with validation issues, mental health issues, and also keeping a healthy social life, which to me is more important. Do people steal my work and post it in other places? Yes. Have I felt like some people have taken some of the concepts I've come up with, put no spin on it, and serve it as their own? Yes. But I realize the plain truth that I'll come out and say for myself: no one cares, and you shouldn't care. You get onto YouTube to pass time, escape from the trials and tribulations of your day-to-day life, be entertained, informed, inspired, etc. And you shouldn't be worried about these kind of issues, especially when in the grand scheme of both my business and my life, it truly doesn't matter. And I would never bring an issue like that to my audience unless I truly felt like it was something that would be important in the upcoming years of my life. I would instead just focus on why I make content and focus on what my audience actually wants. I say this to say that I'm sure I speak for most when I say people just like getting their news from a consistent account or two. I think it's a great blessing to have both of these accounts, and so many more that I follow on Twitter that give news. If the discussion is truly about the cause of informing fans and being that guiding help in the community with the service that you do, then there would never be a discussion about who is better and who's genuine. The discussion would be about, are you giving people the content that they want? Are you giving people content that informs them? And are you being the best version of what you're trying to do? Basically, for a too long didn't listen analogy, look, some people, they grab a Pepsi, some people grab a Coke, some people grab store brand soda, and they all go home happy because all they wanted was a soda. I hope that analogy makes sense.